She was 3 years old, standing alone on a wooden platform in the summer heat, barefoot, bleeding, holding a torn teddy bear that was the only thing in the world she owned. One by one, people looked at her and turned away. Too small, too broken, too much trouble. She had learned at 3 years old not to cry, because crying only brought punishment. So she just stood there, waiting for whatever came next. Then a pair of boots hit the wooden platform, and everything changed. Nathaniel Holloway had not planned to be in town that day. He came for a horse, a gray stallion, nothing more. He had spent 4 years building walls so high around himself that even his own foreman called him a ghost walking among the living. 4 years earlier, his wife Clara had died in his arms during childbirth. Their newborn son followed 3 days later. Nate buried them both and decided quietly that love was a door he would never open again. He had his ranch, his horses, his routine. It was enough. It had to be enough. But something, he would never be able to explain what, pulled him toward the town square. The crowd parted, and he saw her. 3 years old, blonde hair matted with dirt, a dress that was more holes than fabric, feet bare and bleeding, enormous brown eyes staring at nothing and everything at once. She clutched a worn teddy bear so tightly its stuffing poked through a dozen tears. Going once? Going twice? Wait! The word left Nate's mouth before his brain could stop it. Nate did not plan to change anyone's life that day. He allowed himself to feel something he had spent 4 years avoiding: compassion. Healing often begins with a single unplanned act of courage. Nate paid 10 times the asking price, $50, without blinking. He signed the papers one-handed, holding the child with the other arm. She weighed almost nothing, a bundle of bones and fear wrapped in rags. When he picked her up, every muscle in her tiny body tensed, braced for pain that didn't come. They rode in silence. The ranch came into view on the hill, vast, solid, full of horses dotted across the pastures like scattered jewels. That's home. Too big for just me, honestly. Gets real quiet. The girl studied the ranch for a long moment. Lonely? Sometimes. Me too, she whispered. Two broken people who recognized each other across a gap of age, experience, and pain. Martha, who had run the Holloway household for 20 years, stormed down the porch steps. Then she saw the child. Lord have mercy, what have they done to this baby? She ate like someone might steal the food from her hands, fast, barely chewing, watching the door for threats. Slow down, little one. Nobody's gonna take it from you. There's plenty more. Her name was Rosie. She told him that at midnight, sitting up in bed after a nightmare, moonlight tracing silver tracks down her cheeks. The first time she had cried since arriving. My name. She hugged Biscuit tighter. I'm Rosie. Something warm bloomed in Nate's chest, something he hadn't felt in 4 years. He sat in that chair outside her room until dawn, watching over a child who had cracked through walls he'd spent 4 years building. For the first time since Clara died, he felt afraid of how much she already meant to him. He felt determined. Rosie had spent her whole short life being unwanted, being hurt, being told she wasn't worth the trouble. That ended today. Nate had been hiding his loneliness for 4 years, mistaking walls for strength. Rosie had been taught not to want, not to need, not to feel. Admitting loneliness is not weakness, it is the first step toward connection. Old scars, faded to silver, newer ones still pink and raw, whip marks, on a 3-year-old child. Martha's hands trembled as she documented each one. Nate walked out the back door and stood in the yard with his hands shaking, fury burning through him like wildfire. Someone had beaten this baby, repeatedly, systematically. She didn't just learn not to cry, she learned not to exist, to take up as little space as possible, to never ask for anything, never want anything, never expect anything. The dark room. They put me in the dark room when I was bad. The nightmares came every night without fail. Nate learned to sleep light, listening for the whimpers that meant Rosie was trapped in darkness again. I'm not him, he said, sitting on the floor beside her, not touching, just present. The thunder can't hurt you, it's just noise. He said that too, before he hurt me.
You don't, he admitted. Not yet, but I'm going to show you every single day, and maybe one day you'll believe me. He stayed until dawn. Tommy arrived, a 10-year-old tornado of noise and energy. Rosie vanished. Nate found her under her bed, pressed against the wall, trembling. By the end of the day, Tommy had coaxed Rosie's first laugh out of her, a small, rusty sound, like something that hadn't been used in too long. Nate heard it from across the yard and had to sit down. She's not a horse, Jake. No, but hurt's hurt, and healing takes what it takes. Knew a horse once, beaten so bad he wouldn't let nobody near him. Took 2 years, but when he did trust again, most loyal animal I ever worked with. Dr. Eleanor Grant came to the ranch, a female physician trained in Philadelphia. I've examined children from Whitmore's orphanage before. 2 had injuries consistent with severe beatings. My reports were dismissed, a woman's word against a man of God. They look at the bad parts, Rosie said in the hayloft, knees pulled to her chest. The parts that make you dirty, the parts that make people not want you. There is nothing dirty about you, nothing. Rosie's abuse left not just physical scars, it rewired her beliefs about herself. When someone behaves in ways that seem difficult or irrational, ask what happened to them, not what is wrong with them. Trauma is a wound, not a flaw. She stood frozen in front of Honey's stall, watching the newborn foal with something close to wonder, the first time Rosie had looked at anything with something other than fear. He lifted Rosie up to the foal. The baby horse sniffed her outstretched hand, soft nose bumping against tiny fingers. Soft, real soft. What's her name? Don't have one yet. Maybe you could help me think of one. She considered this with great seriousness. Buttercup. Buttercup it is. That night, Rosie ate half her dinner without being coaxed. Nate held on to the small victory like treasure. The townspeople talked. A Bankler rancher with a little girl? What's he thinking? Whispers followed them down every street. Nate's jaw tightened. Rosie's hand tightened around his fingers. Harriet Price looked at Rosie like she was livestock being assessed. Rosie pressed into Nate's leg. She looked at me like the other lady did at the orphanage before the bad things happened. That night, Nate sat with Martha and Jake, and they pieced it together. Whitmore, Price, children sold like cargo, not to families, to buyers, and Rosie had almost been one of them. You go after Whitmore and Price, they'll come after you. They'll say you're unfit. They'll take her back. The words stopped Nate cold. A legal summons arrived. Whitmore was challenging the adoption, claiming the papers were invalid, demanding Rosie be returned. Nate crumpled the summons in his fist. When Nate finally walked into the kitchen, his face was calm. "Hey, sweetheart, having a good cookie?" She looked at him. "You look scared outside." "Grown-up stuff, nothing for you to worry about." "Is someone gonna take me away?" The question hit him like a punch. "No, nobody's taking you anywhere." "Promise?" He should have hesitated, but looking into those trusting brown eyes, he couldn't. "I promise." Every person has a door that is still open. With Rosie, it was a horse. Find the door, and then meet people where they are, not where you want them to be. Whitmore came to the ranch himself. A man in your position cannot provide what a young girl needs. And what does a young girl need, Reverend? To be sold to the highest bidder, beaten until she's afraid of her own shadow? Come after me with everything you've got, but if you try to take that little girl, I will burn your whole operation to the ground, every crooked deal, every missing child, every cent. Rosie appeared in the doorway when Whitmore left. Was that the bad man? He's not going to hurt you, but he wants to take me away. He wants to. He won't. You're scared, she said. I can tell. Maybe a little. Don't be. She pressed her forehead against his. You're brave, braver than anyone, because you saved me, and people who save people are the bravest of all. Sarah arrived at the ranch, barely 18, thin, haunted eyes that reminded Nate sickeningly of Rosie. Mr. Holloway, I'm Sarah Miller. I used to live at Reverend Whitmore's orphanage. I want to help. Nobody ever saved us, Mr. Holloway. Nobody ever even tried. Sarah's voice grew stronger with each word. Her story became the case became the hearing. The morning of the hearing, Rosie in a white dress with blue flowers. Do I look pretty? Prettiest girl in Montana. Pretty enough to keep? The question gutted him. The courthouse was packed. Whitmore in his black suit, confident, Harriet Price beside him, but that confidence wavered when they saw Sarah walk through the door. Then Rosie slipped from Martha and walked to the center of the courtroom. "Please let me talk." The judge leaned forward. The entire room stilled. "Papa Nate never hurts me. He reads me stories. He lets me name the baby horses. He stays with me when I have bad dreams, even when he's tired. He chose me when nobody else would, and I choose him back." Judge Stone's gavel came down like thunder. "It is the ruling of this court that Rosie remains in the custody of Nathan Holloway, effective immediately and permanently." The courtroom erupted.
Whitmore operated for 15 years while the town looked away. Evil does not only require bad people, it requires good people who do nothing. When you see something wrong, ask yourself, what is my silence costing someone else? Samuel was 7, returned twice, labeled difficult, labeled broken. He sat like a statue the day they met, eyes fixed on nothing, body braced for the next disappointment. Rosie sat down on the floor near him, not at him, just near, and began to talk. "When I came to live with Papa, I was really scared. I thought if I was quiet enough, people might forget to hurt me." How? One word, Samuel's first word in their presence. "Because every day he didn't hurt me was proof, and the proof kept piling up until the scared got smaller and the safe got bigger." "You're not bad, Samuel. You're hurt. There's a difference." Nate held out his hand. "I'm willing to prove it to you, day after day, for as long as it takes." A long moment, then Samuel reached out and took it. Samuel couldn't trust words. He needed consistent action over time. You cannot convince a traumatized person to trust you with a speech. You can only show up again and again until your presence means safety. Winter. Nate found Samuel shivering in the barn at 3 in the morning, barefoot in his nightshirt, too ashamed to come inside. "I wet the bed. I tried not to. I know the rules. Dark closet, the belt." "There is no punishment for that. Not here, not ever." That night, Samuel slept in Nate's bed. Rosie on one side, Samuel on the other, legs tangled, elbows jabbing. It was the best night's sleep Nate had gotten in months. Christmas morning. 2 envelopes, one for each of them. Official adoption papers. "You're Rosie Holloway, legally, forever." She launched herself into his arms, sobbing, "I get to stay forever." Samuel opened his envelope more slowly. "This says you're adopting me, but I've only been here a few months." "Doesn't matter how long, matters how much. You're my son." Samuel threw himself forward and sobbed, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Not one member of the Holloway family shared blood. They were connected by choice, consistency, and love that refused to quit. Family is not defined by DNA, it is defined by who shows up. Rosie grew into a fierce young woman who enrolled in the territory's first women's law program. "I want to be the person who saves them, the way you saved me." "You already are, sweetheart. You always have been." Samuel became an architect. Every child deserves a beautiful space, a place that tells them they're worth something, that someone cared enough to build something good for them. On Rosie's wedding day, 20 years after that summer auction, Nate walked her down the aisle of the very church where Whitmore had once preached his false gospel. "You taught me to trust again, how to love without being afraid of losing. You taught me first. You taught me I was worth fighting for. You were always worth it, from the very first moment. I know. I finally believe it." Nate passed away 25 years after that auction, surrounded by his children, his grandchildren, and enough love to fill every empty room that had once echoed with loneliness. "You are worth it," he whispered to Rosie. "Every fight, every fear, every moment, you were worth all of it." "I know, Papa. You taught me that." "Then I did my job right." He closed his eyes. One man chose on one afternoon to step onto a platform instead of walking away. That choice saved Rosie. Rosie helped save Samuel. Both of them spent their lives saving others. You cannot see where your courage will travel. Start the ripple anyway. Rosie was told she was worth nothing. She was placed on a platform, offered to strangers, passed over, written off. And then one man decided, without any guarantee, without any plan, that she was worth everything. That one decision changed the course of multiple lives across multiple generations. The world is full of people standing on platforms, waiting for someone to step forward. You might be watching this feeling like Rosie, feeling like no one would choose you, like you are too much, too broken, not enough. Or you might be watching this as Nate, someone who has been walking away from things that need you, protecting yourself from caring too much, building walls instead of bridges. Either way, this story is for you. Be the person who steps forward. The world is full of people standing on platforms, waiting. Be the one who doesn't walk away. If this story moved you, share it, not for the numbers, because someone in your life might need to see it today. Comment your city below. Let's see how far this message travels. And if you are struggling, if you feel unseen, unwanted, or alone, know this: you are worth fighting for. You always were. Above the fireplace in the Holloway Ranch, there hangs a portrait, not posed stiffly, candid. The man laughing at something the girl has said, the boy leaning against his shoulder, Martha rolling her eyes fondly. Below the portrait, a small brass plaque, the words Rosie chose. Family is not born, family is built, and love, once given, never dies. He found a daughter when he went looking for a horse. He found a son when he thought his heart was full. He found himself when he believed himself incapable of love. That is the power of choice. Subscribe, stay for the next story, and until then, choose love.